Dear Imani.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dear Imani. I'm your host, Imani, obviously. So happy Thanksgiving. By the time you're listening to this, it'll be a day after Thanksgiving or whenever you're listening to it. But happy Thanksgiving. I hope you all had a beautiful time with your friends and family. I know Thanksgiving and Christmas look a little bit different as you get older. You may not be in your hometown, or especially LA people, like people are from all over the place living in California, so you might not go home. And you spend a lot of time with your friends, your Friendsgiving or whatnot. So, however you spent the holiday season, I just hope you have a good time. I hope you ate a lot of good food. And if you don't celebrate, I hope you had a great day off of work because you deserve it. So, I've kind of teased this episode for I feel like 2 weeks now, but I'm super excited for this guest because she is a full time content creator and business owner and the founder of CocoaSwatches, which I'm sure a lot of you Black girlies out there are super familiar with because I know I was. But please welcome to the Dear Imani studio, Ofunne Amaka. Hey, yeah, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hey.
Thank you so much
Hey.
for coming on the
Of
show,
course.
first
Super
of
happy to
all.
be here.
Yes. So kind of how we met, she and I both have shop for Milani
Yes.
Cosmetics. And so the content creator person, Isadora. Shout out to Isadora because we love you. She's the
Yes.
best. She's such a good time. She was like, you should reach out to her because she's so cool. So I like slid in her DMs and I'm like, you want to go to lunch? Because I want to get to know you. And I already knew your brand, Cocoa Swatches.
Yeah.
And so I was like, she's famous, y'all. She's
I don't
famous.
know about
So
that, but
yeah. And then she was like, yeah, we can get lunch. So we got lunch. And then we were able to we went to the same event not that long
right.
ago.
Yeah.
Then I was like, you want to be on the podcast? And here we are. So thanks for coming.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me. The journey continues.
Yes,
At least we're not working out and breathing real hard like we were at Barry's.
right. I know. I know. Oh my gosh, we had an event at the Barry's boot camp,
Yeah.
and that was hard
Yeah.
because it was a cardio for me at
Yeah.
least.
I mean both. Just the
Yeah,
cardio and then the lifting, the drills, and the weights.
yeah, we were
Just
running
pick
too
pick a lane, man.
much. Yes. So, like I said, she's a full time content creator,
Mhm.
and we're gonna just talk about the beauty world, content, her businesses, and all of that. But before we get into what you're doing now, I like to go backwards and like where it all started. So,
Mm.
so if you could think back, what did you want to be when you grew up, when you were little?
Oh, that's easy. I wanted to be Brandy.
Oh, really?
I want to be a
Yes.
singer.
Hmm.
I watched, Moesha. I had what was it, Full Moon, that album I listened to on repeat with
Hmm.
Monica, like the boy. Like I was just like,
The
she
boys
had
vibe.
braids. I
Yeah.
had my mom only let me wear braids. Like I was just like, she was like my girl. I couldn't sing though, so
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was gonna
that
say,
ship
do you
has sailed.
sing?
No, I do not. I thought I could, but
Yeah.
so that ship sailed. But yeah, I think was intrigued by I guess the entertainment industry
Mhm.
by someone who I guess had like a very cool image that I resonated with. And yeah, I wanted to be just like her when I
Yeah.
was young. So
Okay. So
yeah.
you still wanted to be in the entertainment industry, which is
I guess technically, yeah.
yeah,
Like I don't know what it was about. Like I saw her on TV and I was just like, yeah, I wanna there's just
be
something
her.
about yeah, she's
Mhm.
that girl to me.
Yeah, exactly. I just talked about this in my last week's episode, like career changing and
Mhm.
changing your career and pivoting.
Yeah.
And I was saying how for me too, I always knew I wanted to do entertainment.
Right.
And like it looks different now because it's social media. But
Yeah.
back then I thought I was gonna be a pop star. I was like, no one's
Yeah.
gonna tell me I wasn't gonna be the next
Yeah.
like Britney Spears, even though
Literally.
I also cannot sing.
I
But
mean, hey, you learn the dance moves,
yeah.
get
That's yeah.
yeah.
That's how you know we were, like, meant to do entertainment because we wanted to
Right.
be pop stars as
Right.
kids.
Yes. Yes. We had things to say.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you wanted to be a pop star, you wanted to be Miss
Yeah.
Brandy.
Yeah.
So what did you end up if you went to school, what did you end up going to school for?
So I actually ended up going to school for communications. My parents actually helped me figure out my major. I think I was always someone like I took like digital imaging in high school. I was into writing, like I was thinking about journalism and like communications just kind of encompass everything.
Mhm.
And so, I applied to school as a communications major, got into school, and I mean, it just made sense to me. I didn't see anything else. Like there was a while there where I thought I might double major in econ, but my grades started slipping. I was like, "Oh, no."
Right.
No, but yeah, like, I enjoyed the art of storytelling
Mhm.
and learning about all the different forms. So, like, back then, it was writing, like, I used to write a lot. Blogging was such a big thing, so I had a blog. Now, obviously, social media has kinda changed things, but I think the art of storytelling for me has always been at the heart of kind of what I wanted to do with my career.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So everything like, came together, and which we'll get
Somehow.
into, but it really came together, like, hearing
Somehow, yeah.
from pop star sensation that you wanted to
Mhm.
be, and then majoring in communications
Yeah.
and storytelling, like, that's
Mhm.
literally these worlds together. It's on
Right.
camera, it's giving pop star, it's giving storytelling,
Low
so,
key,
like,
low
low-key, you
key.
did the thing. Okay, so that's what you majored in,
Yeah.
and then what jobs did you have before doing this?
Oh, I mean, so I was working in tech. I'm from the Bay Area, so I was working
Mhm.
in tech comms right out of college. Well, it took a while for me to get, my first big girl job.
Mhm.
I had a few little odd jobs there.
Mhm.
I was actually petition writing for a while, and kind of working with just like writing jobs. My first like big girl job was being like a social media manager or social media intern at like a tech company. I kinda describe it as, like, it's like a Dropbox competitor,
Mm,
so
mhm.
not very sexy,
Yeah.
not very interesting, but social media was new at that time, right? And they're like, "How can we utilize this to
Mhm.
further our business?" And me kinda being the youngest person at the company and also trying to get into, communications, I was like, "Okay, you be a social media intern, figure out how we can utilize social." And then eventually, graduating into, like, I think I was, like, communications associate or something like that, helping kind of translate what the execs like their talking points, what they're talking about into blog posts for our website, into social media, like tweets for our CEO, like stuff like that. So just like literally trying to take little sound bites, little ideas that the company and the execs there had and translating them into social. And so it was really like my entry point into utilizing social as from a business
Mm, mhm.
standpoint. Because obviously before, like, I was on Twitter, right when Twitter came out, I was on Facebook right when it came out,
Mhm.
I was on Instagram right when it came out. But thinking about it from a business perspective is definitely different. But I was getting a little bit, what's the word I want to use? I would say bored, for lack of a better word.
Tired. Sick and tired.
It's not a sexy subject, right? And it's
Yeah.
hard to kind of make people feel excited about it if you're not in that world, and
Mhm.
I always knew I wanted to work in, like I said, entertainment, and fashion was really my passion at that
Mhm.
time, so I was
Mhm.
like, I wanna, like, be in New York, I wanna go explore the world, I wanna not just be stuck here, so, yeah, that was, like, the job I had before grad school,
Mhm.
and I started CocoaSwatches after grad school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So after that, that's when you went to New York?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
I did.
okay.
I went to grad school. I went to grad school in New York City, and I was there for about 2 years, and while I was there I always, like, think of it in, like, a very how can I describe this? So basically, when I was working, I had money, and when I was in grad school, I did not.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
That's really what it is, right? So like before, I could just go to Mac and be like, "Hey, like, what should I buy? What should I wear?" And whatever they told me, I could just swipe my card and buy it.
Mhm.
But in grad school, it was like I no longer had that same budget, and that's really where Coco Swatches started because I was like, I need information that's
Mhm.
going to help me so I don't waste my money. So I'm
Mm.
not buying things that I think are gonna look good, like a red lipstick that I should be able to wear and count on. Like, those are those things that you should be able to count on.
Right. Oh,
Oh,
there
oh, there we go.
there she is. You
Yep.
better pull up. If you're listening to this, he just pulled up all her things,
Yeah, there we
so
are. So I needed like a place where I could just go and be like, what red lipstick do I buy and see the actual thing for myself and decide
Mhm.
for myself what I wanted to spend my hard-earned coins on.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that's when I kind of started it. It was also an outlet because I was in grad school. I was working like these unpaid fashion internships trying to get experience. And this was just my way of like bringing it together because if you have a fire outfit on, you need that, fire, whatever, red lip,
Mhm.
mascara, eyeliner to complement it. And I was trying to figure that out for myself. So I was inviting people through social media to figure it out with me and to also help each other share information.
Wow, and so do you feel like you learned a lot from that first job that got you to where you are today? 'Cause also you've seen it grow,
Right.
like, would you consider yourself like a OG, um,
I
OG
mean,
beauty
I guess
influencer?
now, I guess so now. Like, this
Yeah.
is like, I think year 8
Oh,
of
that's
me.
OG, yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely been a journey. And before, like, I started Coco Swatches, like I said, I had a blog. So, like,
Mhm.
I had a fashion blog that was just more kind of about me. And there was a small, like, beauty diaries portion, but it was just kind of like general, whatever I was up to at the time. So I've been, like, trying to do this, for lack of better words, for a while. And so, yeah, I think my first job definitely kind of Well, it's hard. I would say that it definitely taught me, like I said, about social media from my
Mhm,
business perspective. But I think my time in New York really showed me how much work goes into this job. Some of
mhm,
the people that I worked with also did social, and like we were not sleeping. Like
mhm.
we were it was like 23-hour a
Wow,
day.
yeah.
Like I remember like falling asleep at the club on my birthday because I was that tired. My friends took
Mhm.
me out on my birthday. I could not stay awake because I was that tired. So I think the expectations that I had wasn't like, "Oh, I'm just gonna like." I think if you look at social media now, you might think like, "Oh, you just make a video and you'll go viral and
Mhm,
you'll be successful." Like that was not my vantage point at all. I was like going into it like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to like really work at this
mhm.
in order to make this a thing." And so I think that really at least set realistic, um, like standards for me in even starting something like this to say like, "This is not gonna be a short term thing. I'm gonna have to kind of invest in this."
Yeah, and I feel like that's such a good message because people think it's I see always a lot of discourse on TikTok about this topic of like
Mhm.
influencers and content creation. And like if an influencer says something like, "Oh, it's such a long day today or so hard," then the internet's like, "Oh, what do you even do? You don't even do anything all day."
Yeah.
And there's like that whole discourse with that. But I don't think people understand how much it goes into it. It's your job, just like any other job.
Right.
I think the disconnect a little bit sometimes is influencers reap the benefits of their hard work. I feel like
Yeah.
financially and like being able to go to cool places or being
Right.
able to travel where other people work really hard too, but then they can't pay their bills or they don't get to travel or get to experience things. So I think
Yeah.
that's where the conversation messes up just because they're both working equally hard in their
Right.
fields. It's just one gets to reap the benefits. So I think that's where people get like annoyed because they don't get to
Yeah.
reap the benefits. But that doesn't concern a content creator. That's
Right.
not
I
their
mean,
issue. So it's like
I think the content creator gets that instantaneous, whether it is like
mhm,
rewards, feedback. But it's like I think, and I will be the first one to say like I completely understand someone who will look at like this job and be like, that's not a hard job. Because I think when you get to a certain point and you have done the grunt work, it is not going to be as hard. If
mhm,
you like, if you're like at like let's say, and I'm not there yet, so I don't know, but I'll just for the sake of example, if you're like at 1 million followers and you're having like a pretty steady flow of
mhm,
clients or brands you're working with, you're not really like at the grinding phase
mhm.
anymore. So I can see someone looking at that person and being like, "Hey, your job's not that
Yeah.
hard, right?" But it's like there are so many people that are posting every single day,
Yeah.
doing the and they're not getting the likes.
Mhm.
They're not getting they have no health insurance.
Yeah.
And they have like,
Yeah.
and they don't have they might not have, people that are supporting them. Like something that's actually really been difficult for me in this journey is working by myself because
Mhm.
we were talking a little bit before about being extroverted and stuff, and, like, I like working with people, and I think, like, that as much as you may or may not like working in an office, that's kind of what working with for a company affords you is some I won't say community because 'cause I'm not like, I know your workers are not your friends,
Mhm.
but just human connection, human contact, whereas when you're working only posting
Mhm.
online, you don't really always feel so connected to
Right.
any specific person because 'cause you're
Yeah.
your own boss. You have to have all the ideas and have all the answers, and
Mhm.
there's no one to call when you need help, and if you mess up, if you get canceled, it's on you, like,
Yeah.
like, there's
Yeah.
no one else to share the blame, so
Yeah.
it's kind of a lot of responsibility, and I think mentally that, not everybody wants to deal with that, so both sides are gonna have their pros and
Totally.
their cons.
Yeah, and that's why the conversation sometimes is annoying to hear,
Mhm.
especially as someone that's also in the industry and trying to grow as well.
Yeah.
It's like it's a lot of work that gets put into it
Mhm.
from the editing, the YouTube videos, the TikToks. Like
Right.
it's really time consuming and tedious. Like I don't
Sure.
it doesn't feel necessarily hard like labor in that way, but
Exactly,
it's
yeah.
tedious and
Yeah.
it takes a lot of time. Like I hear people it takes me like 2 hours to do one TikTok because they don't do TikTok, and even then,
Takes me
even if you
longer than
do,
that.
takes longer than that, so it's like it's a full shift just like
Yeah.
any other shift,
Right.
but it's good that you went into it knowing how much hard work it took because I think that's what got you here today. Because like you said, a lot of times now people think it's just like you become viral, you become a star, and that does happen for some people, but even if you take really famous people on the internet like Monet McMichael or Alex Earl, if you look back, like Monet has been doing YouTube for a long time and
Right.
she really puts in the work. And then
Mhm.
Alex Earl has been doing TikTok since it kind of started.
Right.
So yes, they're really famous and popular now, but it's not like it was one video. Like it was
Yeah.
consistency and time. So it's cool that you recognize that before, so then you were able to go in a certain way.
Right, yeah, because I think that's the hardest part is that if you don't kind of have, like, a reason for being, if you don't have a why, like, being consistent until you get that, like, viral video or until you get that, piece of content that, like, exposes you to other folks, it's hard to keep that consistency up because
Mhm,
most people have to create, like you're saying, like Monet and Alex, they've been creating for a while, and then over time they started getting these viral videos and becoming more and more popular, but, like, you have to be consistent in order to
mhm,
get to that point. You can't just do one video and expect it to just, go off. Even if it's I see so many creators that are super talented that
mhm,
don't have that many followers. Even if they have viral videos, their followers aren't that much. And obviously, I'm sure we both have to deal with algorithms and the
mhm,
way in which growth has changed. And so I think it's just, yeah, it's important for people to realize that I think this is a job as much as it is glamorous and it's fun. And
mhm.
I'm so happy that, like, yeah, like I'm happy I'm not in corporate America, if I'm being honest,
Yeah.
like I like,
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
happy to be here, but it's definitely like I have my rough days. I have my days where I'm like, "Ugh, I can't figure out Instagram. I don't know
Mhm,
how to like connect on this platform. Why, yeah, I thought this was like a fire idea and it just tanked completely,
yeah.
And I think those are, like, the days that you have to kind of remember why you started in order to be able to push through.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the same thing happens for me working at Disney. People
Mhm.
always just assume, like, "Don't you love to go to work every day? It's so fun." I'm like, "Girl, this is still a job." Like,
Right.
"No, I don't wanna be here. I just
Yeah.
I don't wanna go to work. I don't
It's
wanna
like
clock in."
yeah.
Yeah, so just because something may seem really fun and it is really fun to create content, but it doesn't mean that there's not the hardships and
Yeah.
whatnot. But you kinda spoke about, um, like, people getting viral and then not having a lot of followers too. I think sometimes that's also the community. Like,
Mhm.
I just feel like Monet's just a good example, so I use her, but, like,
Mhm.
she's able to build a community where she has, like, a fan base that's,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
almost like she's a pop star,
Yeah,
like, really.
yeah,
So and I think that's just from how she connects with her fans and the
yeah.
people that follow her, um, and so that's what's really interesting about that, but I also feel like you've been able to build that with Cocoa Swatches just because
Yeah.
even before I put a face to the brand,
Mhm.
like, I knew what Cocoa Swatches was,
Right.
which is, like, really cool because that means you have your own community. So kinda going into that, you kinda talked about it a little bit, like, but how did that start and what inspired you to create that brand?
Yeah, so like I said, alluded to a little bit earlier, I had started Cocoa Swatches living in New York in grad school, working these jobs and not having a lot of money. And so I would always look like I'd be like in Duane Reade, which is like Walgreens in New York, and like
Mhm,
looking at my phone on Google, like, what does this Maybelline Ruthless Red look like on dark
yeah,
skin, right? And I couldn't find anything. And I was a person where I just didn't have time to watch a YouTube video. Like, I just wanted the information, like, right there. So I was like, dang, like, I wish there was, like, a page where I could just, like, have, like, the literal, like, color swatch right there so I could decide and it'd be super easy. Because also too, for being real, a lot of brands, I'm not talking about Maybelline specifically. I'm just saying a
mhm,
lot of brands, in general, don't provide accurate swatching. Like
mhm,
they just will put, I don't know how they do it, if it's digitally created, but like the swatches that they put forth are not actually how it looks like on a person with
mm,
deeper skin tone. And back then, they weren't even having the fake swatches on deep skin for the most part, like, they
mhm,
weren't even showcasing, like, you and I were in a Milani campaign, like, there weren't a lot of brands that had Black girls, people
mhm,
with deeper skin tones in their campaigns, so it was kind of just really hard to determine what something was gonna look like before you bought it. So I created Cocoa Swatches on Instagram because I was like, at the time, hashtags, like I said, things have changed, but hashtags were a thing back then. So
mhm,
the idea was kind of like, I'm gonna make this page, I'm gonna post the things that I like, I'm going to have this as a hashtag and encourage other people to use the hashtag and post the things that they like. And I would always share everything that was kind of posted to the hashtag. And so
mhm,
that's kind of how things started was like and how the community started. 'Cause it was like everyone who uses this hashtag is going to see themselves represented
mhm,
through this page. So I was creating original content, but also curating content from others as well. And so I think the fact that the idea is based in community is why um, that I've been able to kind of maintain a community this long because that's always kind of been at the forefront of what Cocoa Swatches is.
right, and that's so cool
Yeah.
because I now feel like people go to your page, like, they can go to your page because you probably have so many different swatches and brands that you've
Mhm.
worked with or just tried yourself, and
Right.
you've been able to make them have trust in you, your
Mhm.
community too, just because you're like, "Okay." You also broke barriers and made something that wasn't there
Right.
because we just didn't have that. Like, I feel like the inclusion and the inclusion conversation is, like, happened in the past, what, 5 years? Especially, really after, like, Fenty came out,
Yeah.
and then after the Black Lives Matter movement resurfaced in 2020,
Right.
that's when people really started like, "Oh, representation, inclusion." But before that, look, we just didn't have, like, proper makeup, or there would be makeup artists if you were on a set and they just didn't know how to do our makeup or have the right colors, so being able to create something that us, dark-skinned gals can go to and refer to is so incredible.
Yeah.
So, what have you seen, like, happen with Coco Swatches? Like, what has been your favorite part about having this brand?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you're saying, like back then, I feel like, and not just me, like there's a lot of like influencers that like I feel like we were the only ones that were willing to speak up and like kind of put brands to task. Like, Jackie Aina is someone that people talk about a lot because
Mhm.
she has so many like viral videos where she's like being super real about what a product actually looks like on someone. And she's not even the deepest, darkest person. And a lot of
Mhm.
things didn't work for her back then. And so I think uh being able to kinda connect with a lot of those folks, and that paved the way for me, and after I had the Instagram page for a while, I made the idea into a mobile app, and so that was kind of maybe my favorite,
Mhm.
or most, like, remarkable or most, memorable part of my journey thus
Yeah.
far is being able to kind of say, "Hey, like, let's take this into something that, not only I can own, but y'all can have in your phones." If y'all know the story of the CocoaSwatches app, it is not necessarily it's not over, but
Mhm.
it's has its ups and downs.
Yeah.
But the fact that I was able to launch something like that was so dope. Like,
Yeah.
it's really what put me on the map. I got, like, so many opportunities to talk to all these magazines,
Wow.
like Allure and Teen Vogue, and, like, speak on panels. So, like, it really kind of just I think launch of the app really is what changed my trajectory forever. I think if I had continued going and being consistent, I definitely would have done well on social, but I
Mhm.
think the fact that people were like, "Wow, she had to create a whole app
Mhm.
because the industry was not, doing enough to kind of serve, her needs as a dark-skinned Black woman." It was, like, very revolutionary at the
Mm,
time,
mhm.
and I think also proved the point that the inclusion, um, equity, and, the DEI was just not even a talking point at that time.
Right. And so how did your app get that recognition? Was it, you think it's from when you the Instagram page first, and then because they knew that page already, then when you created the app, it was already, like, buzzy basically? Or how did that come about? Because that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's maybe going back to your question about like, did my original job help me? I think like everything that I'd done up to that point helped me because I
Mhm.
was in grad school again for comms. And so I was kind of like learning all the different facets of like communications. And so I really was like treating the app launch as like my business launch. So like at my previous tech job, we had gone through a rebrand. So I kind of saw what it looked like to create a brand from scratch
Mm, mhm.
and like what a press release for that would look like and just like kind of all the things that you do when you launch a brand of whatever it's about, right?
Mhm.
So it's basically like a happy accident that so many people were able to find out about it because I was just prepared. I had all the things ready for people to kind of learn about what this is, and my community that I had already cultivated was so excited about it. So
Mhm.
I think that's really what catapulted it into like that was literally my viral moment.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I think that was like really I guess the fork in the road, if you will, of like my career because it also kind of, built me up because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, I was trying to get a job in fashion at the time. I was in New York because I wanted to work in fashion. And, that was kind of my goal. I wanted to do social or do digital strategy for a brand,
Mhm.
and maybe use this as part of my resume.
Right.
But I was like, "Oh, y'all wanna know about me?"
Yeah, you're like, "It's really taking off."
Yeah, I was like, "Oh,
Okay.
y'all interested in what I have to say?" So it
Yeah.
kind of also was like a confidence boost for me that like, hey, like we were talking about earlier, we, from a young age, you had something to say, you had a story you wanted to tell, and now people are listening. And so
Mhm.
what are you gonna do? Like, and so that was actually the point where I also decided I wasn't gonna go back to work.
Mm.
After grad school, like I think the plan in my head at first was I'm gonna go to grad school and I'm gonna look for jobs and stay in New York. But after I graduated, I was like, I'm gonna do full social full time. I had no savings. I had no plan.
Oh, so you just went
Oh
for it.
yeah, oh yeah. It
Yeah.
was like because like literally that viral moment happened as I'm graduating from grad school, and
Yeah.
so it's just like I don't want to miss my 15. I want to
Yeah,
make
while it's
sure.
hot.
I want to
Mhm,
make sure I try. At least I try. If it doesn't
mhm,
work out, then it doesn't work out. But like this is the time. Like I
mhm.
can't just not take advantage of this opportunity. So
Yeah, and how did, like, your peers respond to that, like, doing social media? Because I know it could be
mm.
different, but, like, in the beginning, I feel like when people wanted to start YouTube or anything, it's like people like to see use the word cringy. It's, like, cringy or people get embarrassed because
Yeah.
you're talking to yourself with the cameras in
Right.
public or you're showing up online and
Mhm.
people get just like, "Oh, a little nerve-wracking." Did your peers, like, respond well to you wanting to do social media, especially at a time where like, at this point, like, everybody and their mama wanna do it, so it's like,
Yeah.
it's not that shocking, but back
Yeah.
then, I feel like it's a little like, "Oh, okay, social media."
Right. I think at least my circle of like people that I was around probably were not surprised because, like I said, I was blogging before that. So I was the
Mm.
girl. Like now we have our phones and it's so much easier. But I was the girl at brunch. I was like, wait, can y'all take a picture of my outfit real quick on like my
Mhm.
big DSLR like
Yeah.
camera? Like I was like the girl that was always trying to like capture the moments. Like
Mhm.
even from college, like always had my camera on me. Always was posting pictures. Always trying to like document things. And so I don't think that this was necessarily something that was surprising. Now, the fact that I was doing it full time, I'm sure people had their thoughts about it because I wasn't able to sustain myself on this for like, I want to say 3 or 4 years. Like, it
Oh,
took
wow,
me a
okay.
while before I actually, and like, that's the part where I guess maybe people don't talk about. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I have, whatever, 10K in savings. And so I'm just gonna, write it out. Like, oh, I had nothing. I
Mhm.
was,
Yeah.
I had some parents that loved me,
Yeah, okay,
some
yeah.
friends that,
Mhm.
try to support me. And, I was trying to figure it out. And like, it was like kind of a thing where every 6 months I was like having to reevaluate. And then I would get an opportunity and I'd be like, okay, like, let's keep going.
Mhm.
So I'm sure there was like, especially those years where I wasn't able to kind of sustain myself on my own just through this. I'm sure there was like talks or judgments or whatever it is, but like I guess I just at the time I really somehow was not letting any of that phase me because I
Good,
just really
yeah.
believed in my community and the idea.
Yeah. And that's so hard, like, that's so people don't know that part of
Yeah.
the content creator and influencer story of, like, how long it could take,
Yes.
especially in today's time, like we talked about, because you can go viral and then people are like, "Oh, you must be rich now." Like,
No,
it's like,
no.
"No." Um, so just having to, like, take care of yourself or find that groove, it took years. Did you
Mhm.
ever get another job, or did you just grind it out, and, like, when that next opportunity came, you're like, "Period," and then it just kept happening like that slowly?
So no, I definitely was doing like odd jobs. Like there was
Okay.
a while I TA'd at Columbia for a couple semesters after I had graduated. I'm like, what else did I do? I considered doing Postmates. I don't think I actually did it.
Mhm.
I think I was like always looking for like kind of like modeling jobs or like because it was New York at the time, so just like little ways to make a little extra buck here and there. But yeah, like for the most part, those things though were like few and far between. Like I said, I was really relying on the generosity of the people around me
Mm.
for a while. And yeah, then when I would get a job, that would go to whatever bills or whatever,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever I had responsibilities that I would have at the time. So I definitely thought of like, you know, going to work at Target, going to but then it's like as we're speaking about, you can't work 8 hours at Target. I mean, you can, and kudos to people that do,
Yeah.
because I don't know how y'all do it.
Yeah, it's a
But
lot.
it's hard to work 8 hours of retail or something like
Mhm.
that on your feet and then come home and you don't have your natural lighting and you don't have your lights or maybe you don't have a great place to film, and so you have to set up your set, be quiet if there's people in the house
Mhm.
and feel like it's hard. And
Yeah.
so I think I was just like if I'm gonna do that, I might as well just not do this anymore
Yeah.
kind of thing. So yeah, it was just like I said, every 6 months, I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, let me start looking at Indeed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But then I would get a call or I get an email, then I'd be like, all right,
Okay,
if I
let's
if
do
I
it.
book this, then I'll be good for the next 2 months. All right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you
So
really just had to, like, believe in yourself too,
yeah.
which is I think a huge part of this industry. It's just, like, actually thinking you can do it
Hmm.
and then putting it into action and doing it, but a huge part is the mindset. Like,
Mm,
if you don't think you're capable of doing it, why would these brands or a community of people think that you can do it too? So it's
right.
like a lot of mindset things. So, but what was your big aha moment, like your check when you were like when you got a check where you like, oh, I'm gonna do this
I mean,
forever.
that's this year with Milani.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I
Period.
mean so, yeah, I mean, this year we both worked
Mhm.
on this I think it's is this technically the same campaign, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yours is like the campaign, okay?
Oh.
Yours is like Big Money Records campaign. I'm trying to get
Uh,
like you. I told them that. I was like, "I'm trying to be in that next big old campaign,
uh,
Isadora."
I mean, well, that was like my like, it's like cultivation, right? Like I've been working hard and I think that I don't I don't like to compare myself. I think any creator shouldn't compare yourself because everybody's journey is different and what's for you is for you. But I will say that like I've seen people that I started with in like way different places than me. And so I kind of have been there's been times where I felt like, oh my, I'm kind of plateaued. Like I haven't really like, have I really made it? Like I'm okay, but I'm not like there. And so like this year working with Milani, being on a billboard, it was kind of like, okay, like
Yeah, so many billboards too.
yeah.
They're like all over LA,
Billboards
y'all.
around
Like,
LA. I was like, okay, like wow, like this is something that is like, I don't think that mentally you can you don't want to like let other people define what success looks like for you. You don't want to
mhm,
like put your too much stock into other people saying you're good, you're good. You have to believe you're good. But it's just very validating to see like a brand say like, hey, like we've seen you working, we've seen you, we want you to represent our brand for like a long time, right? Like
mhm,
there's billboards, there the pictures are in Target for
mhm.
I'm not even sure how long. Like so it's like it's an investment in you. It's not just one video or one post. And so
Mhm.
I think that really was very validating for me and like okay, like this is where I'm supposed to be. Cuz like I
Yeah.
said even though now like I'm just like I'm full time, I have my own brand, I have these other things that I do. There are still days where I'm like, man, I don't know about this,
Yeah.
the algorithm done changed again, and
Mhm.
now I gotta figure out how to. Cause like, when I first started too, like, when you were talking about, what my peers thought, I forgot to mention that, like, I wasn't really creating a lot of content with my face in it at first.
Right,
Coco
okay.
Swatches was, like, the swatches, so I was,
Mhm.
like, just, "How can I make high quality real swatches on an arm?" So a lot of people didn't even know who I was
Right,
because it was
yeah.
my arm that I was, like, shooting all the time, and so because of the way the algorithms have changed, you can't like, they see a black they don't even know what a black arm is. I feel like the AI doesn't know how to register what a
Yeah.
black person's arm is because even when I look for swatches, I don't see myself in the explore page.
Right.
So it's like I have to start showing my face.
Mhm.
And so that was new for me. And so it's like there's always been these changes. And I mean, I think that's again something that working in tech has helped me learn is that you have to try to like keep up. If you just say, I'm gonna just do what I always do, then it's unfortunately you might get left behind
Mhm.
because the tech is gonna change and you can count on that. And so it's better to be an early adopter than to try to just be like, well, I'm just gonna keep doing what I used to do. And so having to continually adapt though is very taxing.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like I said, I still have days where I'm like, ugh, like now TikTok wants you to have talking videos that are over 2 minutes. All
Yeah,
right, let
that
me
creator beta program, they're like
right.
'cause they're trying to take over YouTube too, so they have
Yeah.
a whole thing
'Cause at
going.
first it was like you could do cute little 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and,
No,
now it's like, no,
you better get to
you gotta
talking.
talk, you gotta find something to talk about.
Yeah.
So, it's like, sometimes you kind of psych yourself out a little bit,
Mhm.
but I say all that to say that, like, having those moments, like the Milani campaign, do validate and do help you continue to push forward, and just the comments, like, the community, that aspect. Because at the end of the day, when I don't feel like doing something, but someone's like, "Oh my gosh, like, it's Christmas and I don't know what palette to buy." It's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I wanna help that
Yeah.
person," and so that's kind of what also pushes me as well.
Mhm. And talking about, like, the comparison, and that's everyone knows the thief of joy and all of that, but
Mhm.
I feel like I saw a creator talking about this, and I think she is in her 30s, and she was saying she was feeling like, a lot of the popular creators are, like, early 20s,
Mhm.
and the idea and then but then she also is not a OG creator, like a Jackie
Mm.
Aina or someone like that, so then
Yeah.
she felt lost in where she belonged because she's like, "Okay, I'm not this girl's age, I'm not 22, 23,
Yeah.
but I'm also not anyone that's her age is considered like a OG
Yeah, I get you.
beauty," you know what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say?
Yeah.
Or what she was trying to say,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh, that makes so much sense," because it's like, where do you she didn't know where she would fit in, but really, you don't have to fit in anywhere. It's just make the content and the community will find you, and, like, no one as a viewer of hers, I was never thinking, like, "How old is she? Oh,
Mhm.
she should be over here. Oh, she should be over
Yeah.
there." It's like, that's her own personal insecurity that she's
Mhm.
feeling that no one else that's following her is probably even thinking
Thinking
about,
about, yeah.
but we compare ourselves so much because it's the internet. You
Yeah.
literally just scroll and compare. That's, like, not what it's made for, but that's what it does. Like,
Yeah.
someone has this, someone has that, you're scrolling, you're like, "I want that."
Mhm.
Or, "Why that person got to go over there?" Or,
Right.
"This person's at this brand trip, but she already went to 5,000,000.
Yeah.
Give somebody else a chance." Like, it's like
And,
yeah, it's a lot.
and it's like we're talking about the work, and I think there are a lot of talented people that are doing the work, but for
Mhm.
whatever reason, the algorithm don't like the way that however they put content together, or it's just, they haven't got the memo that you got to do the talking, for two. Like, it's like it's not that they're not talented.
Yeah, so
It's
many
just
different
that,
reasons.
and for even myself, like it's not sometimes that you're not talented. It's just whatever the time that you posted, the song that you used, all the things like
Yeah.
have a factor. And so I think that's can be the frustrating part, that there are a lot of things out of your control, but that's also why it's so important to remember, like you said, not to compare, because it's not about all those things. It's
Mhm.
about you as a person. And I get that feeling though about being a little older, because I think TikTok, like every generation probably had their app.
Mhm.
I've been there from all of them, basically from
Yeah.
MySpace
Oh,
on
MySpace. They should bring that
onward.
back, honestly.
For most of them. So I feel like TikTok is this generation's social media. That's probably the one that they grew up with, and
Mhm.
so I think that there is a um I can understand why someone might feel like, "Oh, I'm just now starting," or "I'm not that far in, but I'm a little older." But to your point, I think, like, there's TikTok has every single kind of niche
Mhm.
available, and so it's like finding that thing that makes you excited to talk about every day. Because at first, you might just be talking about your general day to day, but then you might find out that people really enjoy your coffee recipes, or
Mhm.
people really enjoy, the way that you style your workout gear. Like, and so I think also, uh, while it's also hard to be consistent, through consistency, you find out more about who you are and what you like to do,
Mhm.
and also what your audience is responding to. And so I
Right.
think that is really where, I guess, that mental part comes in.
Mhm. Yeah, and I always say too, there's 7,000,000,000 people in the
Yeah.
world, so everybody can have a bunch of, like, fall like, there's room for
Yeah,
everybody at this point,
there
so
is, yeah.
you can always just gotta keep on going. I just think it's everyone I hate when people say, "Oh, it's saturated," and it is saturated
It
because there's just so
is.
many people doing things, but honestly, every industry is technically really, like, saturated,
Mhm.
but that shouldn't stop you from at least trying to do
Right.
it, you know?
Yeah.
So you went from, like, swatching other brands and all of that to creating your own brand, which is super exciting. She
Yeah.
is the owner of BarePeriod. And do you say,
Period.
like, period like,
It's
Bare
period.
Period?
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
that's how it sounds in your head too? Okay,
that's how,
because
that's
when I read it, I'm like, Bare
yeah,
Period.
exactly, period.
Yeah, so tell us about how you started that, what that was like, the process, all the
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, so when I, like, started, like, getting more popular with CocoaSwatches, started working with more brands, I used to be like, "Wow, like, I get a ton of makeup, like, there's just no way that I would ever need to create a brand, because there's just so much makeup
Mhm,
out there." But, like, you start to realize, like, after, maybe 2 or 3 years of, like, getting this certain collections, that there's a lot of, like, repetitive things,
mhm,
and the brands really are about, like, someone's psychographics more than they are about, like, the actual uh quality of like the lip gloss, right? Like everybody has a lip gloss, but maybe these people, their lip gloss has like these pinks, and their lip gloss has these tans, but like nobody's doing the deep browns kind of thing. And so I
right.
started to realize that, like, actually I feel like maybe there are some products that are missing when it comes to deeper skin tones specifically. And at the time, now that's changed, but at the time too, just a couple years ago, a lot of the brands for Black folks or for dark skin tones were not Black owned.
Mm,
Just recently, Fashion Fair and Black Opal became Black owned. Fashion Fair was resurrected, but Black Opal was existing, and Black Opal was not Black owned, and it
mm,
was like this like cult favorite brand for Black folks for years. Like CoverGirl Queen Collection was something that I grew up with.
mhm,
It's CoverGirl is not Black owned. Queen Latifah is Black, but it got discontinued, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Shea Moisture is another brand that had, like, a great kind of line that is Black-owned, but I guess maybe that the makeup portions of their brand wasn't doing well, so then they just concentrated on hair. So
Mhm.
I say all that to say that, like, there's also been a lot of brands that have popped up and gone away, and so it's like, man, like, some of these brands had great products. There's been great products that I feel like should exist in this industry that either have gone or have come and gone away or have never been introduced at all. And so that's kind of what made me feel like, hey, like, I mean, why not? Why not let me take a stab at this? You know,
Yeah.
I've well, here we
Oh,
are.
there oh my gosh, this is stunning too, like,
Yeah.
what is the website? The
Yes.
website, the models,
Yeah.
the gloss. I recently got into, like, gloss, so I'm definitely about to order. What's your favorite one? The
So,
shades?
I'll say
I
our
like number
best
3.
seller. It's hard for me to say a favorite because 'cause they're all my babies.
Yeah.
It's I started off with nudes because, like, I think I was talking about earlier, like, I feel like stable products for Black folks, for dark skin are so hard to find, like, they're always either too red
Mhm.
or, not quite deep enough, so nude lip glosses to me are, like, something that every girl has in their purse.
Yeah.
So our best seller is number 2, which is Ibois, and I've numbered them from darkest to lightest in both English and my native language, Igbo. 'Cause I'm
Mhm.
Nigerian.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's, number 2 is, like, this kind of, like, purpley dark
Uh-huh.
brown. I have some of it on right now. I guess it
Oh,
looks
yeah,
good.
it's
Yeah.
so pretty. I was gonna ask
Yeah.
that. Do you have it
Yeah,
right
yeah, I
now?
do have it on right
Yeah.
now, yeah, and, yeah, it's like, when I'm just, like, going anywhere, I always have at least one of them in my bag,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, it's really to me, like, this is, like, all the information, all the community, all the sharing and knowledge. Because 'cause I've also learned from my community as well, like, this is kind of the cultivation of that. This is a way
Mhm.
of me giving back to folks of something tangible in addition to the information I can share from other people's brands and other people's stories, like, this is our story. This is the Cocoa
Mhm.
Swatches story, and this is kind of the cultivation of that, so
Yeah, and what I love most about it too, it's like thinking of melanated girls at the forefront. Because a
Mhm.
lot of times when it comes to a shade range being added on at the back end or whatever, we're like the second, third,
Right.
fourth, fifth thought. So to have a brand that's literally the formulas and the technology behind it is with us in mind and
Yeah.
our skin tone in mind is like groundbreaking because that's not a thing. You know,
Right.
I feel like we didn't really see that until the recent years,
Mhm.
of course, and then everything else has been added on. Like, they're like, "Oh, we added, like, 50 extra shades."
Yeah.
And it's like, but that's after we were looking crazy for years
I
with our
know.
makeup and concealer and lips and everything, so
Yeah.
because it is also just hard to find because you mentioned how every girl needs, like, a nude,
Mhm.
but the word nude itself, was
Mhm.
only catered to fair-skinned people and
Right.
white girls and
Mhm.
everything, so when we hear nude, it's like our nude is nude too, but it's just darker. So having a lip color that matches our lips are darker.
Right.
So I can like my pink is not my nude because I'm
Exactly.
black and my lips
Literally,
are too.
literally.
Yeah. So I love that the brand is like the forefront is thinking about darker skinned women.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, the definition nude, like, there was a whole campaign about it, I wanna say 5 or 7, I can't remember exactly, like, 5 years ago. The definition of nude in Merriam-Webster's dictionary still had the words, like, "the color of a white person's skin."
Hmm.
And so, like, only and I did an article with the pudding, and we basically kind of looked at different makeup products and the names, and almost always the lighter toned foundations or, makeup products had nude, but when it came to the darker products, there was no, like, no brown
Hmm.
things
Hmm.
had nude in it, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's only the lighter things that were called nude, and the brown things always had food names or, like, some kind of
Yeah.
weird like, mahogany or,
Yeah.
we love a cocoa. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
even cocoa, right? We love an
Yeah. We
ebony.
love an ebony, a classic ebony color.
Like, but, there's
It's
nothing
like,
that
yeah.
describes our, like, something that's, like, of skin.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, it's like, I really want to create a brand that did have us at the forefront that wasn't like, "Hey, we have a new lip collection with, 6 versions of tan and pink and peach, and then 1 brown that all the dark skinned people are supposed to use." But
Mhm.
the lighter folks have 6 choices, and we
Yeah.
just get the 1 just to make sure that we're being inclusive.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, I wanna give 4, colors that really anyone that has a little bit of melanin can use. And so whether
Mhm.
you're my tone, your tone, darker, lighter,
Mhm.
all of these shades, can complement your
Yeah.
complexion.
And how has it been so far, like, having this brand, having this business?
I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but I think it definitely is teaching me a lot about beauty from a
Mhm.
different perspective. I think I've been in the social media world so long, and it's like, okay, you see how the results of, like, a marketing campaign, you see what it's like when things are rolled out, but rolling those things out, now I'm, like, learning, like, okay, like, um, components, wand types,
Mhm.
bottles, like, all these, like, different things, how to design a box, like, what type of box should you design if you wanna be in a Sephora one day?
Mm.
Like, there are all these kind of visual elements that I'm now realizing that go into a product. I think for in the beginning, I was very much focused on like the payoff, right? What's the
Mhm.
color look like and what does it feel like? But there's so much more that goes into something as simple as a lip gloss that I think has definitely been a learning experience for me, but I
Mhm.
think a good one. Because, I'm basically a one woman show. So I do most of everything to this day still, which needs to change, but
Yeah.
the shooting, the editing and the content I do have an agent now, but, like, I didn't have an agent for the first, I wanna say 6 or 7 years. I was doing all the negotiating myself,
Mhm.
so I and now with this, figuring out all these things, what lab to work with, what bottles I want, how to get the bottles from me to the customer, like, packing orders, all that stuff, like, I'm doing it, and
Mhm.
so it's a lot of work, but I think having to do the grunt work makes you have a better understanding of the industry so that the day that you're able to expand, you know what's going on. You're not just
Right.
kind of like trusting people to tell you what to do.
Mhm.
You know exactly what you want
Right.
it to look like. And so I'm hoping that in the future, as I work to kind of expand things, this is like setting the foundation for like something bigger and greater.
Mhm. And you've put the work in, so a lot of times with celebrities and stuff, when they have a brand, it feels like they just put their name on it,
Right.
and that's why people are like, "We don't need another skincare brand from an influencer, we don't
Right.
need," because that's what it feels like sometimes,
Yeah.
but it's really cool to see and hear that you are doing all the back end stuff, like, you're really just doing it all by yourself right now,
Hmm.
and on top of that, the backstory of, like, having Cocoa Swatches, and then it led into you being able to have Period.
Yeah.
It's like the whole it's like a one it's one big picture.
You're right.
So no one would ever be able to say that, "Oh, she just stuck her name on that," because
Right.
they can
No.
do the research and
Okay.
look it all up and know that was not the case.
Yeah.
So, what does the bigger picture look like for you? Do you wanna be in Sephora or, like, do you wanna have foundation?
Hmm. I want to fill in gaps. So like I am someone who doesn't I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I think that in the beauty industry, it's saturated, so there's kind of sometimes no way to avoid repetitiveness. Like,
Mhm,
okay, there's not other lip glosses available in
mhm,
this world. I know that, but I think that there's something that I have that's unique about mine, and so I want to kind of create products like, okay, we don't have a lot of um like liquid bronzers, for example, that are deep enough for
mhm,
deeper skin tones. There's certain products that I feel like are kind of glossed over and
mhm,
people are like, "Oh, this product is so innovative," but nobody ever thinks of like, okay, well, this really super glossy lip gloss, for example, I don't know, like the YSL or the Hourglass might be super super cool, but maybe I want like a really deep brown color. Maybe
mhm,
I want, something that I think will complement my skin tone a little bit more. So that's kind of where it's really like focusing on those color cosmetics and trying to find those gaps of things that I know that I use every day that I know that my community would appreciate that they would use every day that don't exist.
mhm.
I think foundation is an interesting one because I feel like so many people after Fenty were like, "Oh, we need to have 50 shades."
Yeah.
And it don't matter what the 50 shade look like. It was just like, we just need to make sure
Yeah.
we have 'em. It don't matter if they're realistic or not. We're just
Yeah.
gonna and then they found out that, oh, you actually have to talk to the people that have
Mhm.
those shades. You can't just put it out and act like those people don't exist because
Yeah.
if you only have foundation, if you have a foundation range that is inclusive, but nothing else in your brand works for darker skin tones, it's not gonna sell.
Yeah.
And then of course you're gonna pull it off yourselves and go back to
Mhm.
the way things are. So I mean, I think that there's a lot of brands now that have like a pretty good range. So I don't know, like foundation to me is like I think it's an interesting subject, but it's not my forefront. I'm definitely thinking like color, like blush,
Mhm.
gloss,
Ooh,
those type
blush.
of things.
Mhm.
That like, oh, I love this color, but I just want it a little bit more deeper, or I wish I had
Mhm.
some sparkle in it, or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's so cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm ordering right when I get to my lip gloss. 'Cause I just got into, like, lip glosses. Well, I've always worn lip gloss, but just
yeah,
buying brands. Like, I usually would just, like,
right,
go to the beauty supply house, give me a little lip gloss, go to
yeah,
Walmart, give me a little lip gloss, like,
hmm
call it a day,
hmm
but all these brands have the lip oils, and, like, really after
hmm
shooting, like, Milani's lip oils, I was like,
yeah,
"Wait, it's so cute to have, like, a little lip oil,
hmm
like something cute,"
hmm
and I
It smells
recently
good.
yeah, and then, like, the Fenty glosses,
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, like, Rhode, and she has her lip
Yeah,
tint, and that's
yeah, yeah,
I
those are
recently got that one too,
mhm.
so I'm definitely gonna be ordering. I think I was like, "Number 3 looks pretty too."
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's
that
like
look
it's
cute
kinda
on you.
pinky.
Yeah, it's like a peachy
Oh, yeah, there it is.
yeah, it's supposed to be like a peachy kinda
Okay.
nude, like, the first one's, like, kind of like a chestnut, dark
Mhm.
brown, second one's kinda more muted, third one's kinda more peachy, and the fourth one's kind of more of that, like, creamy coffee color,
Yeah.
so,
They're all so
yeah.
pretty, and they're
Yeah.
I love glossy, obviously,
Yeah.
especially black girls, we love
Yeah,
we
lots of
love a high
gloss.
gloss, high.
Yes.
I've been wearing gloss since I was 2 years old, like, my
Exactly.
mom would be like, "Mm-mm, you need to put some gloss on." So I kinda wanted to end with some, like, Q&A questions.
Okay.
Um, and these are questions that, like, I had myself or also just people that when they submit for this podcast about content creation and whatnot, and I kinda just added them together. So, the first question is, do you see a difference between Black creators versus, like, our white counterparts? And, like, what has that experience been like for you? Because I always see people talking about that and, like, the brand deals that come about or the algorithm and whatnot. We kinda touched on that, but have you seen that and felt that for yourself?
For sure. I think that they're definitely in a lot of different ways. I think, I mean, we live in America, and
Mhm.
so I think that America obviously has its sordid history, and that kind of seeps into everything. Like even when you think about like the algorithm and filters, for example, like the filters sometimes will lighten your skin automatically,
Mhm.
right? There's these certain little underlying things that even if you're just trying to post a video are going to affect you if you have a deeper skin tone, if you're
Mhm.
a black creator, and that you sometimes can't get around. So I think that for sure it affects you when, like I said, I first started. A lot of black creators were the only people that were willing to call these brands to task to say, "Hey, why does your foundation stop at this? Why are you using a black girl in your campaign and that doesn't actually have product for her?" And I think some people don't understand that it's very risky for your career to be seen as a hater or to be
Mhm.
seen as someone who, is negative. And I think that a white creator that says the same thing isn't always seen in the same way.
Yeah,
Is
because 'cause we're,
not
like, angry and black
right,
and
exactly. We're
loud.
just the
Yeah.
angry black woman. We're
Mhm.
just mad. Why can't we? It's just makeup.
Mhm.
So I think that there are people that have been able to profit off things that black folks have been mad about for years
Mhm.
because they just happen to be of a different hue.
Mhm.
And I think that's just unfortunate. That's because it's like a what's the word? It's like, is art a reflection of life or is life a reflection of art? Is the question
Mm.
that I think social media poses. And so I
Mhm.
think it's a little bit of both, right? Like we see what real life ideas and prejudices look like on social media because it's created by people, but
Mhm.
then it becomes a little bit amplified because of these like technologies and algorithms and things like that. So I think it's not to be discouraging, but it definitely I think does affect you. In terms of opportunities, in terms of the way
Mhm.
you're seen. I think the way that I've chosen to go about it is to just continue to be true to my audience because at the end
Mhm.
of the day, that is who you serve is your audience. If your audience doesn't find you genuine or authentic, then you're not going to be able to have a platform.
Right.
The brands can do what they want. Obviously, they're going to be paying you money, but they're paying you money because you have an audience of people who trust you.
Mhm.
And so I think if you're a black creator, that is what you have to always keep at the forefront is that
Mhm.
who are you trying to serve and making sure you serve those people every day.
Right. And I think this conversation is also just kind of being realistic.
Right.
So when you are trying to go into this role, just understanding that. And I also think it's important to follow people that look like you too,
Mhm.
because otherwise you're gonna compare yourself and wonder like, why is this happening for this person but
Yeah.
not me? So, like I just always think it's important to follow people that look like you
Yeah,
too,
and to
because you can relate.
support them too
Mhm.
because, we need
Yeah.
we need to support each other for
Yeah.
sure,
Like, share, subscribe, comment.
yeah, because the other thing that happens too is that sometimes people will automatically think that, "Oh, that person has a darker skin. I don't relate to them." Even though
Mhm.
we probably follow people that don't have our skin tone
Mhm.
too, sometimes people don't believe the reverse can be true, and so it's like you
Yeah.
have to just kind of fight through that, support your black creators,
Mhm.
support your creators of color when you can because we obviously need it. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely there, but it's not it should I don't want it to stop
Right,
anyone.
yeah. Go after your dreams, though. Okay, next one. Kinda on the same idea, what change would you want to see then in social media or in this world, in this industry?
I hate to be like that, like boomer, but like, can we just go back to the way things used to be without the algorithms and everything? I feel like
Yeah.
it was like such a more realer representation of like good content, for
Mhm.
lack of better, like quality stuff. Because if you posted something back in the day when it was chronological order and it was no algorithm, you posted something. If it was doing well, you knew it was something that people resonated with, and if it didn't, you knew you scrap it and you move
Mhm.
on. But now it's like you could have the same content and post it at 5 and post it at 3, and one it might be doing better just because of the time.
Mhm.
And so it's hard to kind of gauge, like, even if your community wants the information, they can't even get it from
Yeah.
you. And so it's like I wish we could just go back to the days where, like, it's I just feel like it was fair for everybody.
Mhm.
Whereas now, like I said, like, I look for swatches on Instagram, I don't come up because Instagram can't tell that this is a arm because it's
Ye
black.
Oh my god.
It's a black skin,
Ah.
it's a dark skin, so they don't know that this is an arm. Like, if I search for swatches on makeup, a whole bunch of white creators come up. My page does not come up, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
So, it's like, I just wish we could kind of even the playing field somehow,
Mhm.
but
Yeah. Ugh, that's so crazy.
it's
Instagram, do better.
yeah, it's so frustrating.
So what is the hardest part about being an influencer slash what do you think is, like, the biggest misconception?
I think the hardest part is that, um, consistency
Mhm.
and I guess I won't say find your why, but I guess keeping it. Because
Mhm.
I think as people, even myself, like 8 years ago, I was 8 years younger. I had
Mhm.
different interests. I had different lifestyle. And so now that I'm older, it's like, how do I keep why I started at the forefront, but then also do what I want to do as a
Mhm.
person, even though like maybe the way that I want to do content has changed. Maybe, I don't, and that's not necessarily true, but let's say I don't like makeup anymore. Like,
Mhm.
then what do I do, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the hardest part is like, okay, you get up every day and you get to choose what you do. But you also have to consider your audience. You have to consider
Mhm.
the platform. And so getting up every day and saying, I might not feel like talking about the latest Christmas launches, but
Yeah.
this is my job. And
Mhm.
so I have
You
to
gotta
find
clock
some
in.
I gotta clock
Gotta
in and
clock
find some
in.
enthusiasm to, let
Yeah.
people know because they're waiting for you.
Mhm.
And so I think the biggest misconception is I think we've talked about is just that is this is something that's like a get rich quick scheme because it's
Mhm.
even if you make it to a point where maybe you're viral or maybe you're doing well, you have your 15 minutes, you're working with lots of brands, it's hard to sustain that year over year. Like I said, if you are changing, if your life is changing, you might not want to do the style of content anymore, even if it's working for you.
Mhm.
Because again, you are your own boss. You got to wake up and do the ideas and do the editing, and
Yeah.
you have to be this personality. If your personality has changed, you got to kind of keep keep that same energy. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so I think it's like you see that with a lot of entertainers, they get burnt out
Mhm.
because it's like, hey, like it's not. We don't as content creators, we're not really afforded the luxury sometimes that we see like artists afforded where they can have an album. The album you get those same songs for the year and then
Mhm.
you're waiting for the other album. We're expected to create content every single
Mhm.
day.
Mhm.
New ideas, fresh, quality every
Mhm.
day. And I think as much as it's not the hardest job, it's not manual labor, it is very taxing. And if you have a creator that you love, definitely give them their flowers because as much as they might have 5 million followers, they might still forget sometimes how much they're impacting you. They
Right.
might need to hear those positive words of affirmation.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Alright, next one. Where oh, I guess this is the last one. What advice would you give someone who wants to pursue this career?
Hmm. I
I'm like,
think
AKA me.
I mean, you doing it. What you mean? You pursuing it. You're doing it. We're
We're
here.
here. Yeah, you're right, you're right.
I feel like that is I think that's something actually I want to touch on is that like don't let like numbers or like metrics psych you out of your greatness. Because I
Mhm,
think that people think, oh, I'm only great if I have
mhm.
500,000. I'm
The
only great
validation,
if
yeah.
I have work with this brand and that brand. It's like, no, like if you are, doing what you love, sustaining yourself, taking care of your business, and you're connecting with your community, you're doing something. And
Mhm,
let's say you don't work with any brands, the community creating itself is so important because there's so
mhm,
many people that feel alone in this world, that feel lost, that feel like, oh, I like this really weird thing and nobody around me likes this weird thing. But you created a community where all y'all are talking about this weird thing, and that
mhm,
is important, whether you're making money for it or not. So I think that don't get so caught up in the metrics. Don't let numbers make you feel Like, don't let anybody, brands, because like at the end of the day, who is TikTok? Who is Instagram?
Mhm.
Who is YouTube? Like, they cannot be the dictators of who you are as a person. So I think not getting caught up in those metrics, and really just honing in on who you want to be. Who are you? Who do you want to be? What do you want to say? Um, is probably the most important advice I can
Mhm.
give.
Yeah. Y'all hear that? I hear that. Period. Bare
Period.
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 Period. Wow, well, thank you so much for coming on the
Of
podcast.
course.
Can you tell us your socials, where they can find you?
Yes, I think I've said CocoaSwatches a million times. So if
Mhm.
you're interested in makeup for deeper skin tones, at CocoaSwatches on any platform. I'm on Pinterest, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, all the things. My personal Instagram is Ofunne Amaka, and yeah, you can holler at me
And you
there.
can shop at
And you can
BarePeriod.com.
shop at BarePeriod.com,
Holidays coming up, great gifts.
TikTok as well, and Instagram, BarePeriod.
Yes,
Yeah.
perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on, like,
Yeah.
such an inspiration, groundbreaking individual,
Thank
so I'm really
you.
honored to have you here, and I know, like, all the listeners, especially Black girlies listening, are gonna be like, "Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I know her." So it's gonna be, cool for me too. But, yeah, I'm super excited to have you here, and thank you so much for telling your story and sharing all your all your things with us.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much for having
So,
me.
yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Well, thank you all for listening and watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, dear Imani.